Yep. Yep.
Okie dokie.
Almost ready. Alrighty. Posted. All right. Whenever you are ready to hit the record button.
Let's go. Okay, let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Warrior House Podcast, where Warrior Pride lives. I'm your host, Ryan Reingart, joined by my co-host, Mike Sangster. Thank you for joining us on episode 85 of the Warrior House Podcast. Sangster, it's warming up. We're
For now.
almost to the end of January for now.
For
Look,
now.
man, look, silver linings. Okay. We're doing silver linings today. Everything is great. We got some sports to talk about, but we gotta be a little bit happy with what we have right now especially for things that are out of our control.
I don't know what you're talking about. I control the weather. With my pure power of my thoughts, I can do what I want.
Then hurry up and make it April 1st so it's lawn season.
Actually, I will
Uh,
have 3 feet of snow on the ground.
oh, I hate it. So we had some stuff over the last week, Sangster. We got to be in attendance for basketball for the most part. I think pretty much everything else was kind of out of town.
Yep.
Um, but let's talk about it. So we'll start out with basketball. We had a little bit of a funky weekend when it comes to basketball. So generally, we'll have, if we're home for a basketball weekend, we got Thursday and Saturday games. Not the case this time. We had Thursday and we had Monday. So we're coming live on Tuesday. Those of you watching on YouTube, or if you found us through Instagram or what have you, that you see us now. But we are recording on Tuesday, so it's already a little bit different for us. But starting out with the women's basketball team back on Thursday, they took on Saginaw Valley. Saginaw Valley was in town for that one, and I believe they were a little lower in the standings. So first and foremost, this is a home game, so you hope that the team can go out and do what they need to do, get a win here. And they did. Wayne State wins this one 71-67. Quick note on this one, Sangster, was really a three-headed scoring attack here. I mean, it was very balanced between Taylor Thompson, Shea Tripp, Gabby Luchka all hitting double digits. I think there was actually another player, maybe it was McKenna Ferguson at 9 points. You might be able to correct me if I'm wrong there, but a very balanced scoring attack in that one. And looking into the stats a little bit, 71 points is a pretty good amount for this team. May have dodged one a little bit, and that Saginaw Valley didn't shoot the ball too well from beyond the 3 point arc. But I don't think that's something they've really had all of that much success from so far this season. And then talking about, from the free throw line, really another place where Saginaw Valley struggled. They only got there 7 times. So right off the bat, they didn't give themselves a lot of opportunities. They only made 4 of them. So there were a couple different things that went Wayne State's way in this one. And also, I think they played a pretty decent game when I'm kind of looking at everything. So I will never apologize for a win. You have my word. As long as we go win the game, I will be happy with it, and I will never say, "Oh, I wish we would have lost that one." Like that's not my speed.
No, not at all. If there's one big thing that happened in this game, uh, got out to a very, very slow start in the first quarter. It was a 24-16 Saginaw Valley first quarter. So a little scary coming into the game. Uh, it's not really anything that Saginaw Valley did. I'm looking at just the first quarter sets. It only went to they made one free throw, they made one 3 pointer, and they just got the rest of their points in the paint. After that, they were just shut down. Uh, if there's one criticism for, well, let's go back to something good. You were saying that uh, the next three on our point scores also pretty evened out. Alyssa Leiser had 9, McKenna Ferguson had 7, and Annabelle Aralt had 8 to
Yep.
round out the scoring for Wayne State there. One thing that didn't go Wayne State's way, turnovers. It's happened. It's kind of been our thing, and it's been the thing for a while at this point,
For a
and maybe
while.
it's just a part of what happens here. Uh, Wayne State had 23 turnovers. Saginaw Valley was only able to get 18 off of that, so a little bit under that 1 point per turnover margin. So at least it didn't do too much damage for Wayne State. And at the end of the day, Wayne State won the game. I think they had a handle on the game for the rest of the night. Aside from that terrible, awful, no good, burn the tape first quarter.
Yeah, exactly. And then, one of the other stats, and they're seeing that we got a good number of rebounds, not a whole lot of second chance points to speak for. But by and large, we handled our business. When Saginaw Valley missed a shot, kind of seemed like for the most part from what we were able to see, because now that I remember, we were actually up in the suite for this one. A little
Yes.
bit of a little different from what we're used to seeing. So we weren't able to follow the game the same. So definitely a little bit of a change of pace for us, but seeing a good amount of rebounds there. And yeah, exactly that. After that first quarter, Wayne State looked pretty solid after that. And then rolling into Monday, I don't say that very often. Roosevelt came to town, and Wayne State was able to win this one as well. Saying, sir, we were in attendance for this one in our usual viewing area. Wayne State wins 75-66. And yeah, the final score in this one was a lot closer than I think we'd hoped it would have been. But again, get a win. We're happy. But it was a lot closer than, a 9 point scoring difference kind of makes you believe.
Yeah, another tough first quarter for Wayne State, 19-17. Not as much of a blowout as that Saginaw Valley first quarter was, but still a little bit of a slow start. Something to keep an eye on, whether or not it's just opponent of the day or maybe something that needs to be worked on. Uh, Otherwise, I think number one thing coming out of this game, Gabby Luchka, 30 points, 13 rebounds, an outstanding double-double in this game, playing all 40 minutes. She did not see the bench at all.
Yeah, no, not at all. Well, and one other thing I wanted to throw out there is I probably
Yeah.
just cut you off. We mentioned a couple of names. Are the top three scorers from that Thursday game were, Gabby, Shea, and Taylor. Two other names in this one. I mean, Gabby was the lead scorer, as you just mentioned, but after that, it's Alyssa Leister and McKenna Ferguson. What I think is really cool about that is it shows that's 5 names that we've just rattled off. And there's a sixth one in there with Annabelle Aralt sometimes being able to put some stuff up. But it just shows that this team can score from a lot of directions. And I think there's a little bit to be said about like what is this team going to be about? This team is a very balanced team. Out of nowhere, like this is far and away the most points that Gabby has put up in a game this season. Kind of blew us out of the like it kind of like surprised us to see that just happen all of a sudden. It was very exciting, but it wouldn't surprise me to like Thursday roll around and Mackenzie Miller ends up being a pretty high scorer in that game. So I think there's a little bit to be said where any one player game after game after game is going to be your knockdown shooter. I think it's a really hard thing if you're a defense to say, we don't know who it's going to be. We just got to go out there and play defense and hope we do that well enough. And, occasionally a Gabby Lechka shows up on a Monday and sinks a lot of shots.
Yeah, and not to be outdone, well, in terms of minutes played, McKenna Ferguson also did not see the bench at all during this game. She played all 40 minutes, and that's something to be said because didn't have that great of a day shooting. 10 points, but only 3 for 13 overall. 50% three-pointers for the day. If there's a criticism coming out of this game is Wayne State was just under 70% from their free throws.
Just
Got
under
to be close.
30.
Yeah, 16 for 23 looks like. Uh, but on the flip side is,
Oh, free throws. I'm sorry. I thought you said threes.
oh,
Yes,
no,
free throws, correct. Yes, you were right.
yep. But on the other hand, they played excellent defense without fouling. Roosevelt only went to the line 7 times. They made 5 of those shots. Uh, they hit their threes when they came up. They were about 40%, but everything else they kind of clamped down on. So I think this was a good game for the Warriors. Again, one that you might have wanted to be a little more separated, but wins a win.
Yeah, exactly. So, at the end of it, you leave out of this extended weekend with 2 wins against, these two teams on our home court. That's about all I could ask for. So, really good for them. I mean, the women's basketball team is, I'm not going to say they have found their groove, but seeing 2 wins like that, and especially after a split weekend up at the Upper Peninsula, I like kind of seeing that trajectory. So, hopefully that continues on. We'll talk about the women's basketball team again here in the second half, but also the men's basketball team was at home and same opponent Thursday, January 23rd. They were home against Saginaw Valley, and Wayne State was able to get this win 88-84. And Sangster, I mean, when we look at college basketball scores, especially D2, I would say especially like these high scoring games like that don't happen as much as, well, certainly not NBA and not so much with D1 basketball. But when you get into D2, it's really, really not a normal thing that you get these just offensive shootouts. And it's just a little bit of a different game with who you have out on the court and some of the schemes that are out there. So, but in this game, we won this one because we shot the ball a lot from everywhere on the court. And I do mean everywhere. We were shooting the ball a lot from, the field, from behind the 3-point line, from the free throw line. And, we did them all reasonably well. A little bit to be left desired at the free throw line. But by and large, after that, like you're shooting 30% from three when you're shooting it as much as they did. That's that's pretty solid in my book.
Yeah. Big note from this game: Tamario Adley, 39 points. Recall that last week in the Upper Peninsula, Rob Lee Jr. got 40. So that leaves Rob's now still at fourth. Tamario Adley is at 39th. What's that to say that 39 points, fifth? So what's that to say that you've got 2 top 5 performances in a game within the span of a week? That's pretty good stuff coming from Wayne State.
It is, yeah. I mean, and that was fantastic to see. I remember we towards the end of the game, we were hoping that Tamario would get, intentionally fouled as Saginaw Valley was trying to put us at the line, get us to miss some free throws. We're like, put him at the line, let's get him to 40, 2 40-point scores and a little bit over a
Close.
week apart. That would have been kind of cool to see there, but he was close. But again, I mean, seeing that you have 2 players that can put up that kind of offensive showing is very exciting. Now I'm going to kind of get to something here after we talk about this next game for Wayne State. And that is on Monday against Roosevelt. Roosevelt came in and Roosevelt won this one 67-63. A very, very funky game. Like just seeing Roosevelt kind of seemingly knock down shots at will was a little bit weird. Seeing them kind of just get open and Wayne State just really, really not able to shoot the ball well. 4 for 29 from three. And those of you kind of get reaching for your calculator, that's 13.8%. So some of the halftime showings for people to show up on the court end up making that percentage. So a little rough there. You're not going to win a lot of games when you're shooting that percentage unless you've shot 9 of them and made one. different story, and every other shot was from the rest of the field. So rough one there, Sangster.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything like that can explain this loss per se. It's almost like I'm not going to say they weren't ready for Roosevelt, but Roosevelt just brought something against this team and it worked. I'm looking at Roosevelt's box score and it's nothing spectacular. Just under 40% from the 3-point line. Okay, that's pretty solid for D2. They made about four in each half of the game, so not not like killer or anything, but I think a big thing is that once Roosevelt got out to a lead, they were able to slow the pace of play down to a crawl. They weren't taking shots. It felt like until maybe 8 seconds left on the shot clock, if that, maybe not even running a set till then. Uh, and it almost felt like they got away from that in Wayne State had a little mini run in the second half of the second half, kind of in the middle of
Yeah.
it, where Wayne State actually got up ahead, and it's like, okay, now we're gonna pull away. Well, Roosevelt, it almost looked like they just got back to what they were doing, and Wayne State wasn't getting back to
Yeah.
what got them into that run. So, shame that Wayne State lost this game. We did have a big game from three players again: Rob Lee Jr., Tamario Adley. No shock there. Uh, Carlos Paul III had one of his I'd say one of his best games as a Warrior. 13 points, 14 rebounds, double double on the game. So if there's one of my uh, silver linings to this game is that he was able to have the game he did.
Yeah, and the one thing I'm kind of struggling with, and I remember watching this game thinking, what the heck is going on here? And Ari Thomas from Roosevelt ends up going, he puts up 29 points, and that's not from the 3-point line. And I don't know if that's part of his game. I don't know if that's something that he just doesn't really do much, but shot 10 for 17 from the field, got to the free throw line 13 times, ended up knocking down eight there. It leads me to my point is we're lacking a little bit inside the arc. With some of our forwards, there's a lot to be desired there. And I think a lot of it is that Kareem, who was a guy that we were really looking forward to this season, really taking on that lead role. He was kind of our starter at that position. You got Calvin out there right now. Nothing against Calvin. I think he's doing a fine job. I just think the position of that stretch four and like really trying to be that mobile guy in the paint. I think we're lacking there a little bit. And I think that's what Kareem does extremely well. Also with his length, he's able to really guard the rim and pull down a lot of rebounds like a lot of guys are not able to. So there's a big part missing there. And I also know that that's a fact because we just talked about a lot of these big time scores for Wayne State lately are guards. These are guys that play from the outside in, not so much from the inside out or, just strictly on the inside. So, I'm very curious. I'm keeping my eye on when Kareem's going to be able to get back out there because I think that's the biggest gap that this team has right now is that one player to add into who's already in the current rotation, keep everybody fresh a little bit, but also, arguably the guy that we have been able to rely on for quite some time now, getting him back in the lineup, I think is going to be big, whenever that might be.
Yeah, and not to mention you were talking about being able to play from the inside out. He's got a 3-point shot. He's got
He
a solid
does.
mid-range shot too. And that's just a component that we have not seen a whole lot of this year.
Yeah, so I don't know if Kareem necessarily makes the difference in this game, but it's just more so like what we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks, really relying on big time scoring from some of these guards out, farther out from the basket, being able to make their own plays, because in this one in particular, I mean, I see 15 assists from Wayne State, so there's a little bit of a team effort. To put that in perspective, Roosevelt had 7 assists and they put up more points than we did. So that's a lot of individual effort. That's guys just getting open, finding the spot on the floor that nobody's covering, and Ari Thomas from Roosevelt just knocking it down. So it really does stink to say that, Wayne State split a home weekend, 2 games there against two teams that Sangster, you and I would probably agree that we should have won both of these. Sometimes, it doesn't always go the way that you want it to be. And sometimes, in the same sense that we were talking about Gabby Lechka putting up 30 points, sometimes you get someone coming to town that just does that and you do what you can, but sometimes it's not enough. In this case, it was not enough.
Yeah, and one other thing that has gone Wayne State's way in these past couple games for sure is they have cut down on the turnovers dramatically. Now, if that means that's cut down on some of the passing and being able to find, you were saying those assists, uh, I don't want to cut down the turnovers at the expense of giving up assists points off of those, but they have cut down on turnovers so far.
Yeah. So again, similar with the women's basketball team, we'll be back to talk about the men's basketball team here in the second half of this episode. That's the wrap up on basketball. A couple of other sports that were going on, starting out with track and field. They were over at Grand Valley State for the Bill Klinger invite. And I think the biggest thing here, thanks to the one that I caught before I even saw any other result for this one, was one of the athletes that we actually had a chance to interview just a couple of months ago at this point, Reagan Justice. She broke the school record for the 3,000-meter run, and the previous record was set by Reagan Justice. So she went out and broke her own record, which is pretty impressive. And it's another one of those, like, she's a senior at this point, but she continues to get better and better and better. And a lot of other athletes on the women's track and field team are also being able to do that. Looking at some of the finals here, we had a couple top five finishes from Wayne State for the 200-meter run, the 400-meter run, 800-meter run, 4x400 relay, and the triple jump. Oh, Sangster's got to step away for a minute. So I am going to just keep on talking here, and hopefully he can't really hear me right now. So that's what we have on the track and field. Looking over at fencing, maybe Sangster can mute me so I don't bother his conversation. We had on Saturday, January 25th, our fencing teams were down at Notre Dame for the DiCiccio duels, and looking at the men's team, they were able to beat Florida, Detroit Mercy, Northwestern, and Cleveland State. They lost against three opponents there. Big one from here is that Zayad Nofal ended up going 15-1 in the competition here. By the way, a redshirt freshman. So pretty impressive stuff from him. Looking over at the women's team, they were able to beat Florida, Detroit Mercy, and Georgia Tech. Ended up losing against five opponents here. A couple individual efforts here. We had Rika Galfalvi. She went 21-1 in the competition. Salma Abrabo goes 19-4 in competition. And then finally, Ludovica Mancini, who is a name that we've mentioned quite a few times, ends up going 15-5 in the event here. So, pretty good efforts here, individually, and thinking about the teams as a whole, competing against some of the bigger name schools that we've talked about before. I mean, Northwestern, I want to say Notre Dame was there. I can't recall right off the top of my head, but Detroit Mercy, a team from right up the road, and then Florida there. I think they must be, expanding their fencing program, or it must be new. I'm not exactly sure. We kind of beat them pretty handily for both the men and women's teams. So again, really cool. And I think the absolute greatest thing that I saw in this one is Zayad Nofal, and I think Ad Maroof. I didn't actually see if his name was included in the stats here, as well as uh, Ahmed's brother. I'm blanking on
Uh,
his name right now.
Mahmoud, I'm
Mahmoud
back.
El Sayed, yes. I didn't see his name on the stats either. So don't know if they're not included with the team right now, because I know there's a lot of international events that go on. So maybe that plays into it. Maybe they were kind of just, holding some guys back, letting them get a little rest, or maybe some extra practice time in before they go out to the next event, which we will talk about in the second half.
Yep. While I was away, did you mention by how many seconds Reagan beat her record by?
I did not, but fill us in.
Uh, so you think, well, she broke her own record from 2 years ago. She didn't break it by half a second, 1 second, two, three. She broke it by 5 seconds over the course of a full 3,000-meter run, 3 kilometers. If
Yeah.
you think that way, it's pretty good.
Which is
That's
like a,
pretty,
which is like a little under 2 miles roughly.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's pretty solid. Yeah,
really
good
great
call out
stuff.
there. So was able to cover fencing there. Some really
Yep.
good stuff from them. Very excited to see what they have coming up this weekend. Some pretty big name opponents they're going to be going against here. So the last one we got, Sangster, is swim and dive.
Yep. Senior day at the Math Eye against Division 3 Calvin. Uh, both teams won in this one. On the men's side, we had some victories. I don't think we've called out his name too often, but he's back in the pool. 1,000 meter free, Khalil Bent Ajmia won that one. 200-meter free, Trevor Jones. 200-meter individual medley, Gabriel Arias. 100-meter fly, Josh Mahaney. 100-meter free, Alin Charnstrom. 100-meter backstroke, Gabriel Arias. And 500-meter free, William Dubrow. So a couple names we haven't called out yet. A lot of ones that we have seen before, though.
Yeah, and then looking at the women's side of things, the women's team was able to win 118 to 84 over number 17 ranked Calvin College in D3, of course. A couple of the ones there on the 1,000-meter free. Emily Headley wins that one. Ali Vasilakos wins the 200-meter free. Sabine Branford wins the 50-meter free. Ellie Belmore, 100-meter fly. Sabine Branford, 100-meter freestyle. 100-meter back, Evie Dice 500-meter free, Emily Headley, and then finally the 100-meter breaststroke, Delaney Parker. One thing I didn't notice here, Sangster, is I do see that swimming and diving is called out. I couldn't see the full results on this one, so I don't know if the diving stats were just missed in the article from the Wayne State Athletics, or if the Calvin College diving program is just absolutely fantastic. I don't know for sure, but something I just noticed there because I was really looking into it to see is Julio Osuna back because we're going to be talking about swimming and dive here in the second half. We got some pretty big stuff coming up for the swimming and dive teams. And actually, I think I misspoke. I think they're actually coming up in about 2 weeks. So we will not be talking about them here in the second half. So just an interesting
Talk
thing that I
about
wanted
them
to throw
soon.
out there. We
We
sure
will be
will.
soon. Yep.
So that is all we had in the past, about week and a half or so. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We got some sports, a lot of the same sports to talk about, but Sangster, we do have a new one to talk about, and I'm excited that it's finally back. So we'll be right back to talk about all of it. Are we going to stop the record? For the fine folks on the live, anybody who's listening in can hear us talk about who came in and bothered you.
Just one of the admins. If you want to let me know
Nice.
that she was leaving.
Oh, nice. You're like, I'm not even working. This is the side gig.
Hey, wonder if there's a way to pause a live on YouTube. Oh wait, there's the little YouTube thing. Oh, I could stop it, but then it would need to restart again. I wish there was a pause thing.
Yeah,
That sucks.
yeah. Oh well. There was the very slightest little bit of break in there. So when we go out to podcast land, maybe we'll see if it so I don't think it sounded too bad. I was able to cut in pretty good, but you gave me the one finger and I just kept rolling.
Yep.
Did you mute me or did you mute the audio
I,
on your
I muted
keyboard?
myself. Yeah.
Oh, the audio coming through your laptop.
Oh no, but
Oh, I was just talking over your conversation.
it wasn't. It was no big deal.
At least somebody now knows a little bit more about Wayne State athletics.
Hey,
Isn't that what we're here for?
that is the mission.
Alrighty. Well, I'm good for the second half when you are.
Yeah, I think so too. I've got the men's standings because fun fact, we are halfway through the season.
Basketball, I assume, is what you
Or
mean.
halfway through conference play, I should say.
Yeah. Nice. That's pretty good. Wow, the GLIAC site is being something else today. Like it's very, very glitchy
Oh, it's working fine for
for
me.
me. Like if you hover over the little headers up at the top, like sports awards inside the GLIAC, is it loading like seamlessly or is it?
It's pretty good.
Oh, all right. Well, it's just
Mm.
maybe I should try turning my computer off and on again.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Not in a bit.
Okay,
Anyway, all right. Well, when you're ready to
let's
hit the record button again, let's roll with it.
let's do it.
And we're back. So, fun sports. We're going to save the last one, or I'm sorry, the new one for the very end here. So let's kind of stick with what we started out with saying. So let's start out with our women's basketball team, who over the last four games have won three now in the conference play. So, they're looking good. We got to keep it rolling though. This women's basketball team is now 11-7 overall. Conference play, they are 6-4. They got a pretty good opportunity ahead of them. So starting out Thursday, January 30th, they're going to head out to Hammond, Indiana to take on Purdue Northwest. Purdue Northwest currently is 5-13 overall, and they are 2-8 in GLIAC play. So this is one, we'll just start out with this one and just say what Sangster and I are hopefully both thinking is this is the one for an away weekend. You go win this one. Like this is the team. We can talk about the last time we faced them. But let's go win this one. Let's get that 2 game away trip off to a really good start with a win over Purdue Northwest.
Yeah, last time out, Wayne State just demolished Purdue Northwest 98-54. Uh, Pretty boring game in the best way possible. I don't need a repeat of that. Just win the game. I get it. You're on the road. Make it happen. Uh, Worth noting that we are now 10 games through the GLIAC season. That's the halfway mark. And so right now, if you look at the standings, right now Wayne State is actually tied for fourth with Parkside, who we're going to talk about next, both with 6-4 records. Right below them is Michigan Tech at 5-5, Saginaw Valley at 4-6, Roosevelt, Saginaw, we just beat them. Roosevelt, who we just beat 3-7, and then three teams: Lake Superior State, Purdue Northwest, who will be facing, and Davenport, all at 2-8. So this is how you start off your weekend on the road. Go against a team that you've beaten before and you should beat again and handle your business.
Yeah, and just looking at, now that you mentioned that we're halfway through, I actually just pulled up some stats really quick. I wanted to make sure that we had a chance. And I think it's safe to say that like we can now look at conference stats under the assumptions that most teams have played everybody once. Now, granted, you've played some of the best teams on their court. Maybe you've played some of the lower ranked teams on your own court. So there's always going to be that, well, here, whatever. But looking at some of the stats, Wayne State offensively is the third best scoring team in conference play. And when it comes to defense, they're in the upper half. They're fifth best right now in the GLIAC. Purdue Northwest defensively, they are giving up a lot of points. As you just mentioned, we put up 98. They average, they give up about 82 points a game so far in conference play. And offensively, they definitely are down towards the lower end of the stats there. So just looking at surface level, I mean, this is one of those, as we were just talking about, Parkside is going to be on Saturday, but this Purdue Northwest team is struggling a little bit. I know it stinks when you feel like you're the team that like, oh, everyone thinks that they can come to town and beat us. We got to try to prove them wrong, go out and get the win. And it's obviously not happening as much as Purdue Northwest would like it to, but being on this side of it, like we're feeling like, Wayne State is a team that is a contender for definitely top four in the GLIAC. I mean, things are definitely pointing towards we can get to that. And if we're serious about that, this is one of those that we have to win. And I think we have a really good opportunity here.
Absolutely. And while we're on the topic of looking at some stats, I've pulled up some leaders percentage, individual players. I'll just call it some Wayne State players in this one. Your Taylor Thompson she's top five. She's number 4 in terms of overall field goal percentage. Interesting one I saw. McKenna Ferguson is right now 5th in terms of free throw percentage. She is 29 for 34. Now, because this goes by percentage, not by number attempted, she hasn't attempted the most. But your number one percentage is 882. That's 30 for 34. So McKenna is right up there with some of the best in the GLIAC in terms of making your free throws. Shade Tripp also number 7 at number 781. And also I'm sure helped by her game against Roosevelt now. Gabby Luchka is number 2 in overall three-pointer field goals per game. She averages about 2.3 per game. Next up is actually a Roosevelt player averaging 2.4. I think
Yeah,
we're getting some stuff from Wayne State players right now.
yeah. I mean, calling out the free throw thing is very important. I mean, especially
Yep.
thinking about Wayne State, we're a bump and bruise team. We get into the paint. We know the Shea Trip. We know Mackenzie Miller, or a number of different players we can talk about. we're not shy to get into the paint and really try to get those hard-earned points. And, once in a while you get fouled, go to the free throw line and just make the other team pay for getting you a foul. So, feeling really good about the Purdue Northwest one. Talking about Saturday, we get to head on over to Wisconsin and take on Parkside. Parkside is 11-6 overall, and they are 6-4 in conference play. And as we were just talking about, halfway being through conference play, record wise, when it comes to GLIAC games, we're tied with Parkside. So this is really one of those like you want to step over a team that you're tied with, you got to be able to beat them in this one. This is going to be a little bit tougher sledding. Look at some of the stats here. Parkside's, on the top half offensively and defensively in the GLIAC. So, and again, we're talking about the fact that they've probably have played everybody in conference at this point, at least the same teams that Wayne State has played. So it's about as apples to apples as we can get at this point. So, this is to reiterate the importance of, that next game up. That next game up is the game that I feel like we should absolutely we have to go out and win if we're going to be a legit contender in the GLIAC. And it takes a little bit of the pressure off this Parkside game. I still think if you want to be a contender, this is a game that you have to go and win because Sangster, what happened the last time we played Parkside?
It did not go Wayne State's way at all. They actually played well for most of the game, but they had uh, again, one of my favorite phrases, terrible, awful, no good, burn the tape, fourth quarter, uh, against Parkside. That did not help Wayne State at all.
Yeah. So do you go and avenge that loss, and then you can step back and say, you know what? They got us once on our home court, but we went and got them on their home court.
Yep.
And by the way, it just so it may be because both of our teams are going to be playing a game. I think before we play Parkside, we both probably have Thursday games. Uh, this is a team that we were tied with, and we were able to go and beat them really when it mattered. So, hoping that's the case. I hope we can get to Saturday, and if we can really talk about the fact that after this weekend, over the course of 6 games, this Wayne State women's basketball team won 5 conference games in there. You really start to solidify yourself and make the case that yeah, you're definitely one of the top contenders in this conference.
Absolutely. Next up, we got the men's basketball team. They are facing the same opponents. Right now, they are coming on. They're 500 all the way through, 9-9, 5-5 in the conference. In terms of the standings, that puts them, unfortunately, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at seventh right now, just above Saginaw Valley. Right now, Wayne State's the only 5-5 team in the conference. Parkside is actually they have a 9-9 overall record. Parkside has that one more win. Right now, there are 2 log jams, actually 3 in different spots. Your top 3 teams are all 8-2. Important because Michigan Tech just beat Ferret State over the weekend, kind of stealing Mario Adley's thunder for GLIAC Offensive Player of the Week. Unfortunately, they're all tied at 8-2. Northern Michigan, Grand Valley, and Parkside are at 6-4. Wayne State's at 5-5. Man, if you can get that one game and see if one of those 3 can get a loss, you're in a much better spot than you are at 5-5. Saginaw Valley and Roosevelt now are 3-7. Then at the bottom, Davenport and Purdue Northwest at 1-9.
Yes, I mean, and then you really kind of a similar story as what the women's basketball team has right now is we're now staring down this away weekend of this is movement weekend. This is really, you talk about a log jam in the middle of the GLIAC standings. Well, let's start out. Purdue Northwest, 1-9 in the conference play. Looking at some of the stats for Purdue Northwest, offensively, they're pretty decent. Defensively, they give up a lot of points. And thinking about Wayne State, looking at some of their stats, they're one of the top offenses in the GLIAC outside of, I assume, the top 3 that you mentioned in the GLIAC standings, kind of bucketing out some of those. And defensively, we leave a little bit to be desired. We'll give a little bit, but we're kind of holding our own. We're really not that far off when you talk about total number of points scored in conference play so far, at least from, average it all out. So this is another one of those like, go Thursday, Purdue Northwest, a team that you feel like you need to beat. We beat them once. You got to beat them again here. I mean, if you're gonna make the case, you're gonna build that resume and get yourself up into the standings to where we're not sweating like last season at a game against Saginaw Valley to be able to sneak into the GLIAC tournament. You got to go and win this one.
Yeah, I think you hit on it, but Wayne offensively, Wayne State and Purdue Northwest are extremely close. They're number 4 and 5 between them, averaging about 72.7 versus 69.8. A three pointer away essentially between
Yeah.
the two. It's just Wayne State has to be able to exploit Purdue Northwest's not so great defense. And in that first game, it didn't. Wayne State did end up winning the game, but it was a lot closer than it needed to be. It was a 3 point win, 70-67. Uh,
Yeah.
One key point though in that game, there was no Tamario Adley. He was out with an injury. This game around, we are getting him back. So can Wayne State change
Yeah.
something up with some different personnel on the court?
Yeah, and I have not seen anything about when and if Kareem Abdul-Rashed is going to be able to come back. But this is one of those weekends you need everybody. You need to come out of this one with with 2 wins, especially being that Roosevelt game did not go Wayne State's way. I think it adds extra emphasis to this weekend. Really makes to me, I don't think there's any stats or any research around it, but it really makes this Purdue Northwest game a must win for this team going forward. And then looking at Saturday, heading on over to Wisconsin. Wisconsin Parkside 9-9 overall, 6-4 in conference play. Again, it seems very similar to the storyline that the women's basketball team is dealing with right now, which is, this is one of those teams you very well could be tied with when it comes to that conference record on Saturday, and you probably are looking at this one saying, "This is our chance to be able to, jump them in the standings and climb up a little bit." Statistically, Parkside offensively one of the lower scoring teams in the conference. Defensively, they're one of the better teams. So, right off the bat, that tells me they win close games. They're in a lot of close games. And, with 6 wins, 4 losses, they're winning more often than they're not. I really do think, Sangster, that with that Roosevelt loss, this feels like one of those weekends that this Wayne State team's got to come away with this one with 2 wins.
Yeah, it's one of those where if you want to be a good to almost great or great team in the league, really, it's win at home, split on the road. Well, unfortunately, you lost that one at home. Now it's time to go out on the road, make it a sweep on the weekend, and we did it at Wayne State. Can they do it again now? And again, there was no Tamario Adley in that previous game. We're getting him back now. So what can they do?
Yeah, and as much doom and gloom as it sounds like, we have to win. If this team is able to win both of these games, there's a chance that they're tied for fourth in the GLIAC after this weekend. Other things have to happen in order for that to be the case, but they're not that far out of it. But
Right.
if they don't, Sangster, there's a very, very good chance that they could be tied for, seventh in the GLIAC. I think they probably would remain at sixth. And again, we still have a lot of time to go, but this is movement weekend. I mean, these are really, really good opportunities for this team to go out and get up in the standings, get themselves a little bit of breathing room, get rid of that loss against Roosevelt, forget about that one, and say we went on the road out of town and were able to win some ones against some contending teams in the GLIAC.
Yeah, big weekend for the Warriors out west. And really hoping for the best for them. Uh, Also, this weekend, we're going to have split squads going out to two different track and field events on the women's indoor track and field team. Some of the squad is going out to, and these are both on Saturday, February 1st. Some of the squad is going out to Saginaw Valley State University for the Jets Pizza Invitational. Really interesting name for an athletic event. It's kind of like Pizza Monday at Planet Fitness. Uh, Trying to see what was the split. So, yeah, we'll check that out later. But also, some of the squad is going out to Louisville, uh, Kentucky, D1 Louisville for the PNC Lenny Lyles Invitational.
Yeah, I don't know the split between these two events. I don't actually know if it's really documented or really
Uh,
who's going to be
it's
at which events for some of the teams. What do you got?
it says who's going, but I'm trying to see like why. Okay, it looks like some of more of the field events are going to the Saginaw Valley State one, and then the 60-meter dash, 200-meter, 400 and 800 mile, 3,000, 5,000. And then so Louisville is going to be 60-meter dash. Okay, it looks like more of our we'll call it high end, higher scoring uh, runners are going out to Louisville. So
I see.
names we've called out: 60-meter dash, Elise Miller; 200-meter dash, Hannah Bastianson; uh, Reagan Justice is definitely going out there. Um, yeah, that's what it looks like. And there are a couple other events out there, but that's kind of looking like how the split's going to be. Then it looks like kind of the more I'll say they're the underclassmen or names that honestly we just haven't said a whole lot of. They're going to be the ones that are going to be competing at Saginaw Valley.
It's a really good weekend at that point because, like, I mean, a lot of play or a lot of athletes for this team are going to get action. I mean, they're going to all get a chance to compete. Some of the ones who haven't really gotten as much of a chance or have not really been, in those top tier events, they get their opportunity now. And, we talked about Reagan Justice as a senior, a couple of other ones on the team, I'm sure are seniors, some of the bigger names. I haven't really looked at the roster in a minute, but, they're the next ones up. So, go out there, see what it's all about, get the feeling of one of those big match days or meet day. I actually don't even know what they call it in track and field,
I think
but
it's meet day.
yeah, get one under the belt and moving forward, we're going to be a little bit more comfortable with that. So, good stuff for the track and field team. Now we talked a little bit about fencing, and they have a weekend event. I believe it's a Saturday and Sunday event over in Evanston, Illinois, for the Schiller Duels. This is hosted by Northwestern, and this is a big event. It looks to me like, oh, obviously Northwestern and Wayne State are going to be there. Temple, Cornell, Cal San Diego, Notre Dame, Farley Dickinson, Wheaton, Stanford, Incarnate Word, and Air Force will all be there. So, anytime something is hosted by Notre Dame or Northwestern or Ohio State, I think they do a number of hosted events. It's a pretty big event, and we're seeing a lot of those big names, and it is continues to be very cool to me that Wayne State gets to be involved with this, and they perform very well. We just talked about how well they performed against some of these big name, generally speaking, D1 schools. But in fencing, Wayne State is D1, and we performed very well against some of them. So an interesting note on this event. This is named after Lori Schiller. I didn't actually look up all of her uh, history with Northwestern, but this is named after her, and she's actually going to be recognized during this event by Northwestern. So that's where the name of that one comes from. Really hoping to see some good stuff from the team. Curious to see how many of the regular names that we mentioned for the fencing team, some of the the Ayad Maroof, as we said, Mahmoud El Sayed, on some of the others that see if they actually compete in this one and see what they're up to. So good luck to both our track and field and fencing teams as they also head out of town alongside our basketball teams.
And last sporting event of the weekend. And it's
The
going to be
only
the new
one that
sport.
stays home.
The only one at home. And it's the new sport. It is Wayne State men's tennis.
Yes.
They are back on the court after a early fall season. And actually, can we break some news right now? Well, you'll
Break
probably
break the news.
you'll probably already know this by the time this episode comes out. But if you listen early on YouTube or such, we will be interviewing head coach of the Wayne State men's tennis team, Brian Morrow, tomorrow afternoon.
Yep. So that's going to be a really cool one. So, we usually, for those listening in right now, if you want to see some of our interviews or you want to see them kind of generally before they ended up on the podcast land, check out our YouTube, The Warrior House on YouTube. We post up all of the videos there. Our thinking is we also had a chance to talk to Yasha Moore, the head coach of the Wayne State women's tennis team. We're going to be putting out a podcast episode here pretty soon, just tennis interviews. So we'll be able to get both of those interviews with our head coaches of the tennis teams, get that out to everybody in podcast land. If that's your preferred way of listening into us, first of all, we appreciate listening in, but we'll make sure to get that out. But yes, very excited to talk to head coach Brian Morrow.
Yeah, the really interesting thing about this team is that there are two returners coming back from last year, and that would be now a senior Cedric Drenth and now a sophomore Benjamin Hill, who played a lot as a freshman for this team, but everyone else is either a a freshman or just a first-time member of the Wayne State men's tennis team.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one to follow. Curious to see how this team does going forward. Yeah, Lawrence Tech comes to town. Um, it is fun. I don't. It would be nice to make it to this one. Very low stress environment. Inside the I always forget the name of it. It was always the multi-purpose, the
Yeah,
Duchesne.
yeah, yep. Duchesne is what it's called now.
Yeah, so just really fun. Nothing beats seeing them outdoor on the outdoor Wayne State tennis courts. That to me is a lot of fun. But
Especially that's going
tennis
to
is
be pretty
always
much,
kind of,
especially that's going to be pretty much done by the time spring season starts.
yeah, definitely looking
They
forward to that.
played, but it
So
wasn't quite finished.
that's true. Yeah, that's right. They've been doing some really cool updates there. So, but yeah, that is all we got. Best of luck to our Wayne State tennis team. They're the lone team that gets to stay home this weekend. All of the other teams have to leave town and just go and get some wins on their own. So, looking forward to a pretty good weekend there, Sangster. And that is all we have.
That's it.
So, with that, we appreciate everybody listening in on episode 84 of the Warrior House podcast.
And remember, it's always a great day to be a Wayne State Warrior.
Nice. Bye, YouTube people.
Bye.